Hello everyone, my name is Jason and welcome to the very first episode of the Noble Crumb. So as always, before any episode, please hit subscribe, like, comments on my recipes that I do for you guys. I'm really looking forward to chatting with a lot of you and getting to know you. So today what we're going to do for my very first recipe is going to be a Black Forest brownie. You will probably see a lot of brownies on this site because I do tend to make a lot of different variations, and I really hope you guys try them at home. Tell me what you think. So without further ado, let's get started and I'll show you what you're going to need to make this recipe. Black Forest brownies, here's what you're going to need. Half a cup of unsalted butter, 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, 1 1/8 cup of granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, preferably at room temperature, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of instant coffee mixed with 1 teaspoon of water, 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, half a cup of cocoa powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and cherry pie filling that we're going to swirl into the brownie batter. We're going to bake it at 350 for about 20 to 25 minutes, and we're going to top it with a Kirsch whipped cream. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is sift our dry ingredients together. So we've got our 3/4 of a cup of flour, our half a cup of cocoa, and we're going to add in our 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So all you're going to basically do is give it a quick sift through. Obviously, when you're dealing with cocoa, it tends to have a lot of lumps at the end. So we just want to make sure we get all of those out. It's just going to help make it a lot easier when it gets all mixed together. Just going to press that through. And sometimes it takes a little longer than normal. All right, so that is good. And then all you're going to do is put this off to the side until we get our other ingredients ready. Okay, so next up, I've got a pot here with probably about 1/4 inch of water in it, coming to a simmer on a low heat. And what you're going to do is basically we're going to melt our chocolate with our butter. So I've got heat-proof bowl here with my half a cup of butter already in it. Put it on top. Always important, make sure that the water actually doesn't touch the bottom of the actual bowl while it's melting down, obviously. And then I'm going to take my chocolate. So you can use any kind of chocolate you want. Today I'm using basically chocolate chips, really simple. I'm on a budget right now, so that's what we're going to use. So about 8 ounces of chocolate, pour it in, and basically you're just going to keep mixing it and letting that melt down till it's all nice and smooth, and then you're going to stick it aside. Okay, so our butter and chocolate has melted down really well. We're just waiting for the last couple little lumps to come out. So I'm using a semi-sweet chocolate. You can use a dark chocolate, which works really well. Obviously, it just has a little bit more of a bitter note. Milk chocolate, I find it might make this a little bit too sweet, but some people have more of a sweet tooth. So you can do basically whatever you want. And obviously, like anything else, the better quality of chocolate you use, the better product you're going to get. But again, I'm on a budget and I can't spend a ton of money on fine chocolate, so I'm just using my chocolate chips today. So now that this is all melted, to this we're going to add our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Mix that in. And then I've also got a little bit of instant coffee. So I took a teaspoon of instant coffee and just mixed it with a teaspoon of water just to kind of get the granules all broken down. And we're going to add that to it. Coffee always mixes well with chocolate. It's going to really enhance the overall flavor of your brownie, and it makes it just so much better. So once that's mixed in, we're going to take this off the heat and we're going to stick this aside, and we're going to start getting the brownie batter together. Alright, so next we're going to start getting the brownie batter ready. So I've got my mixing bowl because we're going to be using a whisk to whisk this up. So mixing bowl there. So I'm going to take my chocolate and butter mixture, and I'm using an oven mitt because the bowl is still very, very hot. And we're going to pour this into the mixing bowl. Scrape down the side so you get all of the chocolate and butter in there. You don't want to waste any of it. Right. And then to this, we're going to add the sugar. So we've got 1 1/8 cup of sugar, and we're just going to go ahead and pour that into the butter and chocolate mixture. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to whisk this for a couple of minutes to get it all together, and I'll show you how that'll look. All right, so I got my bowl onto my mixer, so I'm going to add my whisk attachment here. And we're gonna bring the bowl up and we're gonna start whisking this. So probably for about 1 to 2 minutes. This is gonna get really loud, so I'm not gonna let you guys sit through and watch this, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So whisk it for a couple minutes. Okay, so this has been whisking up for a couple minutes. Basically at this point I'm just going to do a quick little scrape down, and then we're going to start adding in the eggs. So basically you're just going to want to add your eggs one at a time. So I've got 2 eggs here. We're going to add 1, and then we're going to whisk it so that it's incorporated. And this So that's 1, then we're going to add the second one, and this is when you're going to start noticing the batter really start taking shape. Alright, we're just going to do a quick little scrape down here. Get everything nice and mixed in. So then at this point we're going to give this a whisk for about 2 minutes just to get those eggs whipped up nice and airy in there as well. So we're going to let this go for about 2 minutes. Okay, so now that this has been whisking for a couple minutes now, we're going to start incorporating our dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. So I usually put this in a little bit at a time with the whisk still going, but the big thing to remember with this, because we're making brownies and not a cake, is you don't want to over mix your batter, because that's just going to make it a more cakey texture. We want this fudgier and thicker and dense. So we're going to start folding this in little by little until it's just incorporated. So low speed, and we're just going to start folding these. And obviously if I dumped this in there and had this thing on full blast, you're going to be covered in flour and cocoa everywhere. And that's probably not going to be the funnest thing to clean up at the end of the day. Alright, so all that's in there. Now that everything's in there, we're just going to turn this up a notch. It's coming together. Stop it, and we're just going to do a quick scrape down of this. Oh my god, it smells so good. I love brownies so much. Alright. Let's do that again. When you get to this point, you can turn up the speed really quick to give it that one final blast. And that's it. Where's my hand? There we go. All right. Take the whisk off. We're going to shake that off. Wow. Looks so unbelievably good right now. I could just eat this entire thing. So when you do this, you'll probably find there's going to be a few little clumps. Anytime I make any type of batter, I will always do one final stir with my spatula just to make sure everything is in there and is well incorporated. Now we're going to put this into our pan. So let me grab that. So I've got a 9x9 square pan here, lined it with parchment paper, and then I gave it a good spray with just some nonstick spray. So now you just take your batter, and it is going to be super thick. And we're just going to pour that into the pan. And oh my god, does this look good. I tell you, once you've made these, your family is absolutely going to go crazy for them, and you will probably end up being like me and sitting down and eating the whole pan, which I shouldn't recommend, but it is pretty hard not to. Alright. I'm just going to smooth this out so it fills up the pan. And it moves around quite easily. You can see that these are going to turn out to be so nice, so dense. They are absolutely incredible. Okay, that's pretty good. So then, obviously, these are going to be a Black Forest brownie. So what we're going to do next is our cherry. Now, I couldn't get my hands on any frozen cherries or any fresh cherries because of the time of year, so I am cheating, and I am using canned cherry pie mix. Obviously, if you make it yourself, it is a whole lot better, but guess what? We're going to do it this way today. So you're going to take this and you're going to make just globs around the top of the brownie mix. You can use as much as you'd like. I think if you do put too much in, it's going to overpower because you don't want to take away too much from the chocolate. So I probably use just about half of a can maybe. So once we got it there, take a knife, really easy. We're basically just going to do like a swirl. I usually scoop under and over. Just so then you're not really mixing it together. You're just swirling, so you're going to get pieces of chocolate with just some nice cherry chunks in there. So just take the knife right under the mix and pull it over top. Don't overmix it. You want it to be a little bit more rustic. And just go. We're going to smooth this over a little bit more. And then we are going to put it into the oven. So I've got my oven heated at 350 degrees. And now with this, the big thing is not to overbake them. I tend to underbake mine a little bit more because I do like them really fudgy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put them in and we're going to start at about 18 minutes, and that's when I'm first going to check them. So put these in the oven. We're going to start at 18 minutes and I'll show you where we're at. All right, so it's the $1,000,000 question that you're going to ask yourself at this point is how do you know when your brownie is done? Because the reality is, because this isn't a cake, it's a brownie, if you were to go and stick a toothpick in, the toothpick is going to come out dirty because, again, you're going to want that nice, fudgy, rich texture. So I'm going to show you the things to look for to kind of help you gauge where your brownie is. And as you make more of them, you're going to figure out kind of how you like them, if you like them a little bit more overdone versus underdone. I typically like mine a little bit underdone. I really like that fudgy texture when it really sets. So when I pull these ones out of the oven, I'll show you what to look for. Okay, so we have been in the oven here for about 18 minutes. So let's take a look and see what we've got going on in here. They are definitely looking good, and I can totally smell these things already. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got here. So right now I can tell where I like my brownies. These are still have a little bit of a ways to go. But like I was saying, if I was to go ahead and put a toothpick into the center right now, pull it out, you're going to get a big chocolate mess in here. Sorry if you can't really see that, but there we go. So things that I always look for when making a brownie to see how done it is first off, if it's going to start pulling away from the edges. So these are actually starting to pull away from the edges, so that's a good sign that we're on the right track. The other thing is when it starts crackling along the top. Now, because these have the added layer of cherry, it's going to affect that a little bit. But as I can see, when I just even touch this right here, it's literally just indenting. There's no real structure to it yet. So these are going to go back in the oven. I'm probably going to leave them in there for another 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll check them then. All right, so these have been in for another 5 minutes, so let's take a look and see. So I guess that makes us a total of 23 minutes for this one for me for today. But obviously everyone's oven is completely different and it'll always vary. But when I look at this right now, the first thing that I'm seeing, hopefully you can pick it up, is right along here where the brownie is exposed. I can already see it's cracking. When I touch it, it's got more firmness to it. It's still soft, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely set. So I think these for me are done and they look so good. Okay, so now at this point, the brownies are out of the oven and they're sitting on the counter to cool. Basically, you want to leave them until they are completely cool. And if you still have any hesitations about whether things are cooked versus not cooked, at this point, the eggs in the brownies have been cooked, so you're not going to have any issues there. You just want to make sure you're giving them the time to set up. After they're cooled, you can even put them in the fridge for an hour or two to firm up that chocolate and the butter and everything that's in there, but you do want them to be really, really gooey. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take the break, let those cool, and then I'm going to show you how we finish these guys off. And believe me, you're going to love it. All right, so I let the brownie cool completely on the counter, and then I put it in the fridge for a couple hours so that it can really get nice and firm and set up, just so you get that really nice fudgy texture. So the next step is going to be making the whipped cream. Now, typically with Black Forest cake, you're going to want to have some kind of like a cherry alcohol thing to kind of go with it, either in like a syrup brushed on the cake, but obviously because this is a brownie, the cake part is really, really dense. So I'm actually going to add kirsch to the whipped cream part. You can leave the kirsch out if you don't want it. You don't have to have any alcohol whatsoever, and you can just have a plain whipped cream. But for the whipped cream, basically take about a cup of your cream, 1 to 2 tablespoons of sugar, depending on how sweet you like it, and just a tablespoon of kirsch. Whip it up, and then we're going to put it on top of the brownie. Obviously with brownies, and because this is whipped cream, don't put the whipped cream on top until you're ready to serve it. Otherwise it's just kind of deflate and melt. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the whipped cream, because I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do that without a video tutorial. And then I'll cut this up and we'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I've got my brownie taken out of the fridge here. It has sat up so nice. So I'm just gonna take a nice piece out of here. So you can see on here, let's see if I can get in the camera there. It is super, super fudgy. You can see that there's the nice pieces of cherry in there. This looks so good. All right, so we'll get that out of the way. And since I'm probably not gonna wait, I'm probably gonna do this now. So I'm just gonna I've got some whipped cream in a piping bag here. You can obviously just do it plop on top, but make things a little bit fancier. So we'll just go around and around, and I like lots. There we go. So super simple, super easy, tastes absolutely amazing. Black Forest brownie, that is it, and people are going to go crazy for it, trust me. So I hope you really enjoyed the recipe for the Black Forest brownie. Thank you so much for watching. This is actually my first video. It's a little harsh right now because I'm waiting for my new lighting and all that kind of stuff to show up. But please subscribe, comment. I can't wait to hear from you guys. I'm really looking forward to bringing you guys some more new recipes, and I want to hear from you guys as well. So we'll talk to you later. My name's Jason, and thank you for checking out the Noble Crumb. Bye.